In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about a huge case result win that we had for an organized scheme to defraud and fraudulent use of personal identification case in South Florida. My name is Adam Rossen. I'm the founder and owner of the Rossen Law Firm. We're criminal and white-collar defense attorneys in South Florida. And this case, right, is a really interesting case that we had. So let's talk about this case, right? Our client's name was Jason, and he worked at a Sprint store in Palm Beach County. And he's a young kid. I think he was 20, 21 years old. And his coworker had been at that Sprint store for a while, and he told him about a quick and easy way that they could make some money. And basically what they did, right, not smart at all, very bad decision, but they used a credit card. They got credit card information of people who came in to buy, iPhones, and they took that and bought a bunch of iPhones themselves through the computer system in the Sprint store and basically gave it to themselves. They took them, they sold them, they made a good amount of money quickly and easily because, iPhones are expensive, right? And like I said, Jason was very young. He was, he succumbed to peer pressure and money pressure. He made a really stupid decision. He was definitely not the mastermind of this. But again, at some point he said, yes, I will do that, right? Sprint caught them both, fired them both. So what Jason did was actually very smart afterwards. He talked to his parents, talked to his family, and he found us and he hired us right away because this was even before he was contacted by anybody from police, but he knew it was coming. So he said, hey, I need to get a lawyer, a criminal lawyer. I need to get the right criminal lawyer and law firm right away. So that was probably the best thing that he did in this situation. And we started to defend him immediately. The very first thing that we did was gave him our invocation of rights form. And what that form does is it memorializes the fact that we are his attorneys and that if police come and try to catch him off guard, which they often do, they use the element of surprise, then he can give them this form which says, listen, speak to my attorneys, okay? I have attorneys, I have representation, please speak to them. And it gives them a bit of a shield between them and the police officers. We also had Jason save up the money for restitution because we know in cases like this, restitution is really going to matter a lot. And while the police go slow and, an initial officer comes out and, to the Sprint store, then they have to assign it to a detective. It's a slow process. So what we did is we certainly were not going to sit back and wait for some detective, whether it's a week, a month, or 3 months, come and try to catch Jason off guard. So what we do is we're constantly putting in public records requests to find out when the police report hits the system so that way we know who the initial officer is, who the detective gets assigned to it, and then we reach out to them proactively. Okay, and on these cases, that is key. I've seen lawyer after lawyer be lazy, not be proactive and try to do these things, and they just sit back and tell their client, well, just wait until the cop finds you or talks to you, right? I completely disagree with that strategy, and so that's not what we did in this case. We were proactive. We reached out to the detective, and we said, hey, we represent Jason. Everything will go through us. So when you're ready to talk, let's talk, right? And let us present our evidence or our case, or let us not and just say, hey, look, he's not going to give any statements. But that way, from day one, the detective knows that Jason has an attorney and we can work professionally to make sure that Jason is protected. A lot of people say, well, isn't that going to make the police officer, think that Jason's guilty? And what I tell everybody is the police officers already think he's guilty, okay? They already think he's guilty. And the smart officers actually appreciate when defense attorneys get involved in a case early because then they know it's going to be easier for them. It's going to be professional. And they know that then they're not going to be put at any risk of harm because anytime a police officer goes to somebody's house or their job or just is on the street, to question somebody, there's always a chance of harm. And that never happens, obviously, when we're involved and we're emailing and talking and meeting in person with the detectives. So what we did in this case, by speaking with the detective, we convinced the detective to not arrest Jason himself, but instead to send it over to the prosecutor's office for a warrant request. And the reason we do this is we want to get as many bites at the apple as we can, and we really want to try to prevent an arrest. So it doesn't mean the arrest was 100% prevented. It just means that the prosecutors are going to be the ones to decide if they're going to proceed with the case anyway. So instead, let's have the detectives just push it along to the prosecutors. So what we did is we proactively contacted the prosecutor. Okay, we called them and said, hey, we represent Jason on this. We had this case pushed out to you. Jason has not been arrested. I know you're going to be deciding what to do with him. Jason has all the money saved. He's ready to pay it all back right now. And we had months while this investigation was going on to put together a mitigation packet for Jason to show the fact that he's young, he's never been arrested before, he's in school, has good grades. We had letters of recommendation, and we were really able to paint a bright future and this picture of this really good kid who just made a really stupid mistake to the prosecutor. So what happened? The prosecutor actually agreed with us. And the prosecutor said, look, this is a big company. It's Sprint. All they care about is their money. Give me the money. I understand that, he's been punished already by being terrified through this, by having to pay you. He has the money saved. I believe you guys with the mitigation and everything else. So I'm going to not file charges on this case if he pays the restitution basically within a week. And luckily, he hired us and we had it all set up the right way. So he paid it immediately. And the case was gone. So for Jason, there was no mugshot, no arrest, no night in jail, no criminal charges filed, nothing's in the clerk of the court. There's really no information about this case anywhere. And I always tell people, I say the best cases that we handle are the ones that nobody ever knows about, because it's not in the clerk of the court. It's not a public record. We didn't have to defend Jason for 12 months and take a bunch of depositions and charge him a lot more money. We didn't have to do any of that. So he had the best result possible, which was fantastic. He was very happy about it. His family was very happy about it. He's doing very well now. And our sincere goal is that this was just, one, major blip on the radar that eventually we'll look back and say, wow, it did not alter the course of his life in a bad way. It actually altered the course of his life in a great way, because he learned from it and he will never, ever make that mistake again. So that's what happened on Jason's case. Organized scheme to defraud, criminal use of personal identification. Jason was looking at 10 years in prison as a max, very serious charges. He was looking at becoming a convicted felon. We made sure none of that happened. And all is good on his case, and all is good with Jason and his family. If you folks ever have any questions about anything to do with criminal law, white collar law, theft, anything that we do, especially if your case is in South Florida, we'd love to talk to you. You can always call us at 754-206-6200, or you can go to rossenlawfirm.com.